I'm going to ask a simple question. And it's really simple. And the question is this. Does white America owe black people anything? Do white people owe black people something? Very general question. Now, we all know the history of America. We all do, whether we accept it or not, whether we want to hear it or not. America has a very, very dark historical past. It has done some very demonic, some very inhumane things to one segment of its population, its society, the ancestors of blacks. Some say Africans, some say Moors, whatever we choose to call them. They were brutalized by white colonialists. They were brutalized by white supremacists. They brought in ships many, 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 many precious souls across the oceans to America to build this country. Many of them were lost at sea. Many lives, millions of lives over a period of time. And then we all know about Jim Crow. We all know about Willie Lynch and the civil rights movement and so forth. But why one segment of our society, which just happens to be black? These innocent people didn't do anything to the white supremacists. They were in their own country, their own place, their own homes. But something took place. This group of supremacists, if you will, thought that it would be better to remove these individuals. Number one, to receive free labor. They weren't going to pay them anything. They weren't going to treat them fair at all. In fact, they murdered on a regular basis African people. This doesn't sound palatable to a lot of you that are watching this video right now, but I really don't care. This is part of American history. This is the part of American history that you never have seen in the history books in most public schools. Virtually all of them, if any at all. When I was coming up during school, from the elementary all the way through high school, it was never introduced to us. They never brought it up. Everything was sort of just smoothed over, and they gave you the history that they wanted you to know. And that was it. But you never were taught this. Why is it that this tainted past of America has been hidden? It's in public view if you go to the library. I mean, it's in the public domain. You can go and find this information. You'll find it to be true. We know this. We know that we have museums as well. But our white counterparts, our white brothers and sisters, never talk about this. Most of them are afraid to address this. What their ancestors did to black people on the continent of Africa and here in North America as well. And the vestiges of slavery still do exist in America. However subtle it may appear, it's not as covert as it once was. It's almost completely in the open. But for some people, it's just understood that that's just business as usual and that's just the way it is. Now, hush, don't talk about it. That's how most people that are white want to deal with it. Oh, they're talking about race again, those black people. Even black people, many of them who have become, excuse my expression, complacent and house Negro types. They don't want you to bring it up because it sort of disturbs the relationship that they have with the people who they work for, because it's the white infrastructure and it's not their company. It's not a black business, in other words, that can empathize or sympathize with them and their plight and that of their ancestors. So oftentimes they don't want you talking about it, because you might start something. You might start a revolt. You might start some sort of revolution. Black folks would say, well, if it's not broke, don't try to fix it. In other words, I'm making a good salary where I work for, this white job, in other words. So never say anything about it again. But it's amazing when we talk about our Jewish brothers and sisters. Anytime you mention the Holocaust, they talk about it and all of the atrocities and what their ancestors and their family went through. No one tells them, oh, stop talking about that. It's only the black American that they have that issue with. You see, Jewish people received some form of reparation. So did some Asians. Black people, we never got the memo that we were going to have one. Out of all of the presidents in my lifetime, to include Barack Obama, he never addressed the issue of reparations. Now, do I subscribe to reparations? Maybe on some level, but I say this to you, my friends, my black, my Asian, my white, my Latino, my Arab-speaking friends. I say this to you. We would never receive it. As I'm speaking to you today, black people would never see reparations in this country called America. It would never happen. Because so much has been done to stop the growth, the development, and the prosperity of the blacks in this nation. It was an agenda. It's always been the agenda of the white supremacists to keep black people down. Now, somebody might say, well, you're tooting that same horn, brother teacher. You're talking about, oh, the black man's down, the white man owes him something. You never heard me say that. Please read the context of what I'm saying to you and use that gray matter to think and to critically think. I'm not saying that I specifically feel like I'm owed something. I will say this. Black people have been stereotyped as lazy, as good for nothing, as violent, as rapists and pedophiles and all of these other things. But you know what? That's because white folks in power own the media. They always cast black people in the media in that light because they own the media. They control the media. They control all of the resources and all of the media outlets. The paper, the radio, and the television. They control it. So they're going to control what we see, hear, and read. The white supremacists that control everything. So why in the world would you think they would tell the truth? You see, I heard a long time ago that once you tell a lie, you have to keep on telling that lie. Or tell another lie to cover up that lie, and so on. They're never going to disclose who they are and why they have done what they have done to the black people across the world, actually. It's not just in America, but it's across the world. Go no further than the internet and you will see that black people basically are treated the same way across the planet, where there is white supremacist intervention. Why? Getting back real quick to the reparations thing. America will go broke, and it's already a debtor nation in the first place. House Joint Resolution 192 back in 1933. Read that when America went bankrupt. We don't have anything. We just have a powerful military that threatens everybody, that pretends that, we are such an honorable nation. But we have over 90 military posts across the planet. No other nation does that but America. Why? What is it that we have to hide? What are we trying to protect? As most presidents have said in time past, America's interest. Even if it means that their interest that they're protecting causes the deaths of hundreds of thousands of people. In Iraq, for example, during the 9/11 campaign. Why? Why hundreds of thousands of people were killed by American coalition troops? Why? But anyway, does the white man owe us something? They owe us. Let me back up a second. Let me say this. All white people are not the same. I've said this before and I'm saying it again. I sincerely do have white students. I have white friends and associates. Love them dearly. And the average white person that you see that's working, middle class all the way down to the poor person that's white, they're just like us. We're all the same. They're common people. Those are not the white people that I'm talking about. I'm talking about the 1% that control everything. I said before and I'm saying it again, white supremacist. If you are a white supremacist, meaning that that's your ideology, that's what you think, and that's what you believe, that you are the only one that matters and everybody else is just collateral damage. That's what I'm talking about. Those are the only whites that I'm talking about. Now that we understand each other, those people there would never admit to the wrong that they've done. Not just in America, but everywhere across the planet. Just for power's sake. So do white people owe us something? What they owe us, and I'm talking about the white supremacists again, what they owe black people is the ability to have the same things afforded to us as they do to everybody else. Was I not clear enough with that statement? What I mean is this. I want to, some of this might sound a little bit cliche-ish or even hypothetical, but I want to, just generally speaking, be able to go into a job interview and apply for a specific job that a white man applies for as well. And if peradventure I had more skills and a greater job experience than this white person, I believe that I should be hired above that white person and not be denied because of the color of my skin. But that's not been the case in America. There have been many whites that have been less qualified than blacks applying for jobs, and the white man was hired because he was simply white. And the black man was not hired, he was simply black. This is a start. When you go to apply for a job, you're not looked at as being black or African American. You're looked at as being a qualified human being. If you're Asian, Latino, white, Latin America, I've already mentioned that, or you're black, it doesn't matter what you are. As long as you're qualified for the job position, you should be considered and then hired. Not, in the back of your mind, you've already made up your mind to throw the application away once the person walks out the room just because they're black. I've experienced this in my lifetime. I'm not just talking just to be talking. So I do know that it happens. Now let me tell you something. Slavery hasn't been that long ago. And the civil rights movement and Dr. King being assassinated in Malcolm X has not been that long ago. So do you think that the ideology of white supremacy is disintegrated? Do you think it just went away? No, it still does exist in America. Go no further than YouTube. Go no further than your news and you'll see black people all of the time being profiled. And that's another subject too. I'd like to be able to drive down the street and not have a police car pull behind me because they see me through the window that I'm a black person or an African American, as some might say. And they're looking at the type of vehicle that I'm driving, or the fact that there might be 2 or 3 people in the vehicle, or whatever the case is, but they still profile you because you are black. And they find reasons to give you a citation. And then they don't get your consent to search your car. The next thing you know, what was supposed to be a headlight out, a tail light out, improper change of course turns out to be a full investigation from a traffic pullover. Why is this? That's happened to people that I know personally. It's happened to people that I don't know. It's happened to me. You're pulling me over. You found a reason to pull me over. Why are you finding reasons? If you haven't committed a crime, then you need to leave the American people alone, especially the black American. Black Americans have been targeted ever since they have been here on this land. They have been abused ever since they have been here on this land. They have been disenfranchised, discriminated against, having racist slants used against them ever since. And I say them, I'm saying us, ever since we've been here. Ever since. And it has never gone away. And no courageous white man, no courageous black man, no courageous Latino, no courageous Asian, or any other ethnicity that's been in public or federal office has ever stood up before the nation and spoke out against it. It's never happened. Boardroom meetings behind closed doors, that doesn't mean anything. We don't feel that. We feel what you disclose to the world, not behind shut doors. When you let the world know that you are against something that is happening against a people, then you get the world's attention. It's like kneeling during an NFL national anthem, the pregame, if you will, taking a knee and not standing for the national anthem. Is that a crime? No, it's not. It's one of those business as usual things. Go ahead and take it, Negro. Yes, 2 or 3 black men were just shot a week or 2 ago by a police officer who were unarmed black men, who were not resisting arrest black men, who were black men who were minding their own business, trying to talk to the police officer, and he was choked out in New York, Eric Garner. But he's killed this way. We all saw the video. We don't have to go to court and let a corrupt pool of jurors who was picked by the prosecutor to go against anything that was right so that they have a conviction against the person who is the so-called defendant or the demised. Instead, hooray, the police officer walks away. He was found not guilty of choking a man to death who was just simply trying to talk to you. South Carolina, Walter Scott, traffic stop. He's pulled over. He gets out the car as the police officer goes back to his vehicle and he runs. Police officer steadies himself, fires 8 times, shooting Walter Scott in the back, killing him. He didn't commit a crime. Was it a crime for him to run? Are you serious? Is that really a crime? Did he hurt you? Did he hurt anyone? Did he damage anyone's property? You know, that's the actual definition of a crime, is when you harm someone or destroy someone or damage someone's property. Only those 2 things. Nothing else. So when you're saying that a person who's sitting in their car smoking a cigarette, you pull them over, Sandra Bland, in Texas, and you threaten to light her up with your taser because she doesn't put her cigarette out, and you drag her out of the vehicle basically, and then a day or 2 later she ends up dead in custody inside her cell, and you say she hung herself with a garbage bag from a waste can. But she went there for a job interview so that she could better her future. And all of a sudden she becomes suicidal. Okay? Alton Sterling, minding his own business, selling CDs as he always has in front of his friend's store. He ends up being accosted by 2 police officers, tackling him to the ground. And just because he had a gun on him, hey, gun, execution style, while you're on the ground, there's 2 burly men, police officers on top of him, shoot him to death right there. Philando Castile. Was it Baton Rouge, Louisiana, where this occurred? Him in his vehicle, he told the police officer, hey, I have a concealed carry permit. He was reaching for his wallet to show it to him. All of a sudden, the police officer panicked, shot into the car, killing the man. Man had no record. Man worked in a school cafeteria. Didn't bother anybody. But it's always funny. And I don't mean that facetious. Odd is what I mean. It's always funny. It's strange that every single time an African American or a black person has an encounter with a police officer, especially a white police officer, because historically that's what it's been. Every time black people have an encounter with a police officer, as soon as that police officer kills that person, or wounds that person, or abuses that person physically by beating or otherwise, they go and check the history of that black person to try to pull up all of the dirt and pull up all of the stones and rocks, trying to find some dirt on that person so that they can have a reason for what they did. But every time the police officer does something, nobody goes pulling any rocks up trying to find any dirt on them. The same people who do it to the black folks. You see, they police themselves. I'm sorry, I know I got off on another tangent, but it's all interrelated. The question still is, does white America, do white supremacists owe black people anything? They owe us this. And I know this is so simple. It's so plain. The scripture says that the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, the world and they that dwell therein. Everything belongs to the Creator, the Almighty God. He never gave any part of our population, just because you are a particular color or race, He never gave you permission to say that it all belongs to you at the expense of other people being abused by you. He never told you that. You see, you are in direct violation of the Creator and His will. The earth belongs to all of us. Every color under the heaven is supposed to be able to enjoy this earth. Not just one group because they think that they're better. Not just one group because they are in the 1% of the most powerful and they stole their wealth in the first place from all across the planet. But they decided one day that this one group of people, because of the color of their skin, they are inferior to us. We think that they're less than us. We think that they're less than human beings. But what's ironic is that your ancestors didn't have a problem raping the black women and their daughters and the men as well. You didn't have problems impregnating black women during the slavery times. You didn't have that problem at all. But they were less than human. So do you owe us something? Do you owe black people something? You white supremacists. You owe black people the ability to be free from you. You owe us the ability to live as you live. In other words, the best way that I can put this, stop oppressing us. Get your foot off of black people's necks in this modern day system of slavery, which is what it is. Get your foot off of black people's necks and afford them the same opportunities. Now, there are some that heard me say that same opportunities, talking about stop being lazy and you go out and get. Are you serious? I say this one more time. If you haven't heard me before, hear it clearly now. White people own all of the resources. The resources that they stole, coincidentally. They own all of the resources. So when you're telling a black person to go and get it for themselves, they've been trying that. We've been trying that all along. But we always meet up with some obstacle, some hurdle that's put in our way by white supremacists. Once they stop doing that, once white supremacists, you stop doing that and allow black people the freedom that God intended all men to have, then black people are going to do themselves. They're going to do them. They're going to achieve the things that are in them to achieve without being hindered by you. Everything that black people have ever tried to do to succeed in America, it's always been met with aggression. It's always been met with adversity by white supremacists because they don't want black people to be powerful in their own right. I'm sorry. This was not to make anyone really happy to hear this. That might just be a white supremacist that might be watching this or of that mindset or mentality. It's not to make you feel cool and comfortable and fuzzy feeling, so to speak. It wasn't intended for that. It's intended to make you aware and to remind you of how things really are. So again, Mr. White Supremacist, what we want is this. You know, it's funny how people who have stolen power, who have stolen position, and who are evil and corrupt men and women, how they're so emboldened, how they're so cocky and arrogant. This evil, as I said, it's funny how they take that position and they disregard anything that you say as it relates to that full circle theory, things coming back to haunt you. And well, some people say karma, but I want you to know, Mr. White Supremacist, that God's going to punish you. It's coming, and I know you know it. It's a matter of when he punishes you, but it's going to happen because your tyranny and reign over this planet that we all know is Earth and that we all share and is supposed to love, it's coming to an end. I didn't say it's about to come to an end. It's coming to an end, meaning that it's in that process right now. Your tyranny is about to collapse, and your reign is about to end. And I know you're trying to stock up and store all of the wealth and the power that you possibly can. And even with your mighty military, supposedly, you think you've got it made. But really, you have a fear internally because you know that there's nothing that reigns superior over the Almighty and the true and living God. He has already got you in the book. And I'm not talking about the book of life, the book of damnation. And I'm sorry to all of my friends that are watching me right now, my followers, if I sound a little bit upset. I'm not really upset. I'm just really telling it like it is. To all of my friends and to all of those who are out there that I don't know, that are black, white, Asian, and whatever your ethnicity is, who have been under the foot of white supremacy across this planet, be encouraged. Be strong. Because he's going to get what he deserves. And it's going to come. And it's going to come with a vengeance. So, for those that know the word of prayer, let's continue to pray for one another. Let's continue to pray for the earth. As I forestated, it belongs to all of us, not one race, not just black, not just whites, not just Asians, not Germans, not Jews. It belongs to everybody. And the fact that one segment of the population on the planet decided that it belongs only to them, at the demise of other people, at the mistreatment and the inhumanity that's been carried out against certain other ones, we all know what the conclusion is going to be. And I'm reminded before I close, the book of Ecclesiastes. Let us hear the conclusion of the matter. Fear God and keep his commandments. Now, if you have not been doing this, then your destiny has already been determined. This is Brother Teacher. As I always say, Yahweh loves you, and I love you. Please leave your comments and your concerns and your issues in the comment section below, and please keep it clean. If you have nothing positive to say, if you have nothing intellectual to say, and if you cannot be polite, you know what I'm going to do. I'm just going to dismiss you from the channel. It's that simple. So I'll see you in the next video. So long.